your take on millionaire Robert Durst?
Well, I'll tell you, this was some find, and HBO is probably kicking themselves that they can't believe that this actually went on during a documentary. I mean, this guy, as you know, has been in the news for years, and people couldn't believe that he got away in the first case with chopping up the neighbor, and the jurors walked him out the door. So
that was crazy.
People have been watching. I don't think the public was too in tune with what was going on with this before this HBO documentary came about, but this guy's been in the news for years, and when his case first went to court with him chopping up the neighbor, there was uproar when he was acquitted. So people are looking at this now and I think starting to realize this guy is obviously, has the makings of a serial killer. Now what's going to happen is they're going to argue tooth and nail to keep that so-called admission or confession out. The defense is going to move on that very quickly. Well, first of all, he's going to be in for psychological treatment. They've already moved towards that to see to deem whether or not he's competent. Maybe down the line they'll go for an insanity plea. I don't really know. But when he was arrested, he was immediately taken into custody and then put into a psychiatric ward. So what's going to happen next is the defense is going to he's going to be charged with murder based on now the admissions they have, the letters that are misspelled Beverly Hills. If you saw part of the documentary, if you saw that line of questioning was very interesting, that he couldn't tell which letter. And for your listeners that don't know, there were two letters that were sent to the police department in California, and Beverly Hills was misspelled both times on the envelope. And the handwriting, when you see the two letters, the two envelopes next to each other, it's really uncanny. I don't even think that you would need a handwriting exemplar or an expert to say that's the same person. And then when asked in the documentary, do you know which envelope you wrote, he couldn't even say which one he wrote. He couldn't even pick out his handwriting because they're both the same. When he goes into the bathroom, the prosecution's going to say, listen, he was mic'd up. He didn't go in the bathroom with the direction of a police officer. It wasn't that they were trying to catch him. This guy does talk to himself, but he was mic'd up, and that's what he said. And when a defendant talks and it's not in response to any questioning by the police, where rights don't have to be read and he's not in custody or under arrest, then those words come in. And so that's what the prosecution is saying. That to us is an admission. I would dare to think, in doing this for so many years, that if in fact that is admissible, which I think it will be, the defense will then argue the meaning of what he said. He didn't mean that he killed them all. He meant, look, they're trying to say that I killed them all. So that's what I was muttering to myself. Oh, yeah, sure, I killed them all. And so there will be the line of whether or not a jury would interpret it that way. But coupled with the envelopes and the relationship that he had with Berman and the fact that she might have known the secret to what happened with the wife, I think a lot of this was so circumstantial, and now with that admission, it kind of makes the prosecutor's case. So it's going to be very interesting. And now I think people that never followed this case early on, with the murder of his wife and the murder of the neighbor in Galveston, Texas, I think now people are really going to be tuned in to see what happens in this case.
Oh, no question. And isn't it amazing how karma comes back to the O.J. Simpson example? I mean, this guy obviously killed somebody in 2003, dismembered the neighbor, and got away with it. I just couldn't believe, what he got away with, and he's linked to other possible
And when he was
victims.
found, interesting, Jordan, when he was found this time, he was, and he was a cross-dresser, so he was dressed many times in women's clothing, and this time when they went in, he had his passport, he had a lot of money, he was staying in a hotel in New Orleans, almost like he knew that he was, bound to be charged in the California case for the murder of of Susan Berman and for the disappearance and murder of his wife. Many believe, and this is what the California prosecutors believe, is that Susan Berman, this last person, who was his very, very dear friend, had information about what happened to his wife and that they were closing in, and that's when she was killed, and he's the one that did it. So it's going to make for very, HBO, I'm sure will jump right on the bandwagon again and follow this maybe in documentary form as a continuation. But like I said, people that never knew what was going on with this case, if you caught it years ago, because I think maybe Court TV touched on it on the dismembering case, and if you didn't catch it years ago, certainly you're going to be very interested in following it now.
Yes, and did you catch the picture of him in that policeman? He was actually had a sadistic smile. Did you happen to catch that, Stacey?
Yeah, it was like he had a smirk on his face. I mean, almost laughing at the fact that he got arrested. It's the mind, like they were saying, who can kill somebody and then chop them up and put them in trash bags and whatever, just the mind in and of itself, there's no doubt that there would be some kind of there's obviously a psychiatric issue. You have to look at it and say anybody that does this has a psychiatric problem. It's a matter of using that mental instability and that mental defense to see if it's going to get you off in court. So on a murder charge. So, it's going to be very interesting to see what these lawyers, he's got, top of the line lawyers, and they've already been interviewed. They've already said they're going to waive extradition. They've already said that he didn't do it, that he was muttering. They've already tried to accuse HBO of kind of setting him up, sending him, knowing that he talks to himself, that he went into the bathroom, they left the mic on. Well, the funny thing is, you can know that somebody talks to themselves, but you can't predict what the person's going to say. You didn't force the person to say, I killed them all, even if you sent him in and he spoke to himself. He could have walked in the bathroom and said, I need to wash my hands. He walked in the bathroom and said, I killed them all. Again, there will be a matter of semantics. There will be a language expert to say that that's not what he meant. Or if he ever takes a stand, if it ever gets to that point and he ever testifies in court, certainly he would say, that's not what I meant. They were trying to tell me that I killed them all, and so I was just repeating it. I killed them all. So very, very interesting.
And his lawyer is highly talented.
He's got an excellent lawyer.
That's one thing he does and one he can do these days. But before we get to our next